Hello everyone and most welcome to 1721 of the Heidegger series. We will today continue with a rethinking of the foundation, starting with Wittgenstein, in particular the later one. Last time I started with an interesting paper, 1720, by Hunt. It is about aspect blindness and meaning blindness, and whether there are similarities or they amount to the same thing. There was a strengthening of the idea that there was much more to aspect blindness than previously assumed in Wittgenstein. A higher degree of complexity and much, what could one say, that it affected more parts of the language game than as for instance indicated by Joachim Schulte, who said that it only affects or is pertinent when it comes to, so to speak, Feingeschmack, or the finer details in aesthetics. No, the authors, there are two of them, they see that it takes much more decisive and important aspect. Seeing has a much more important role to play, and that it could be maybe the most important aspect in understanding language or learning language. Language itself is a form of aspect variation. To have the possibility of identifying one meaning or one rule following among the words is absolutely necessary to see it from the different approaches it can have. Only one simply will not be enough. Then you cannot see the sameness that is a rule. That could be one of the most, could be the very center of understanding of Wittgenstein's view of language. And in my case, I'm rather happy. It means that the duck rabbit has much more importance than previously assumed. It's not only a helping tool, it shows to the grandeur of language itself. Points to higher possibilities, and I suggested in a previous lecture the idea of the kaleidoscope. The constant changing aspect seeing is even a step further. It most definitely goes to the very core of how meaning is constructed. Actively within the language game. And how the possibility of seeing things different is not a thought that possibly Plato will call it, from like it's divergent from the wholly original, the Platonic ideal. From which no deviance should be possible. No, on the contrary, this is what helps or make possible the stability of an expression. And I think easiest to see that is within mathematics. A rule following can only be seen over the aspect of what we usually call time, but more fundamentally is the difference between the different aspects of a series of numbers. So you could possibly say that now, then, and what is past are aspects of something, or crude simplifications of something. What is more important in seeing the rule is to seeing the different aspects. Those are the ones that lead up to an understanding of the rule. That there is a rule behind recognizing it, and then you also get the use or the understanding of mathematics. The same holds true for meaning in language. See it as an expansion of pi, and that there is an interdependence of all the words in the language and the meaning of one singular word. Makes a big kaleidoscope, so to speak. That brings all the sides of the language together into one unified format, but of course with different meanings inside. Rule following with a word is the word's meaning. The rule is helpful in establishing the meaning of the word, and just as I come back to this again, I'm sorry about that, but just as in the exercise field of the military, when someone turns right instead of left, that very act is the misunderstanding, not something inner. Only there does he break the rule, or that is the breakage of the rule. Nothing else, nothing inner. A sort of state in the mind that is not correctly, statically depicting the outsideness. And this is, of course, a great expansion and widening of the understanding that meaning is use. This use is also the rule following. It develops together. So then the languages, or are the rules, they interact, probing, so to speak, the environment for effective ways of doing things, interacting, developing, and growing. I think that's also a very important feature. Growth. One need to enter into this role playing and aspect seeing is absolutely a sine qua non for entering into the Sprachwelt, the Sprachspiel. You can see the whole language game maybe as a mosaic, but be careful not to take that too literal. The complexity is way beyond any mosaic of any sort. So the I, or the self, is the one who enters and reads off the language game. Here on page 176 in Johnston's fantastic book, the second paragraph, we have one way of underlining the particular nature of our language game is to contrast it with other possibilities. The tendency is to think that our game corresponds to reality. And is the only possible one. in fact, it is conceivable that other people should play quite different games. And I would say that is a very important feature to understand that other games could be played with the same background. And I began with this last time, but it could be possible for a group of people to reject the inner outer picture and to treat all pain utterances as genuine. They say, if it isn't true, then how can you say it? They have no comprehension of a lie. He wouldn't say that he was in pain if he wasn't. If he did so, say, he would be crazy. Now we try to make the temptation towards lying comprehensible to them. But they say, yes, it would certainly be pleasant if he believed, but that is not true. They do not so much condemn lying, rather they feel it's something absurd and disgusting. As if one of us began to go around on all fours. Here it is important that lying is not rejected on moral grounds. Rather, these people reject the very concept of lying. How then would they react if you told them that you can never trust the outer, or that the person could never know what another was feeling? The picture, which to us seems so natural as to be inescapable, may mean nothing to them. Indeed, the idea that the inner was always hidden may strike them as a lie. As a joke, or as a strange or sad form of madness. They may treat our skepticism as a form of paranoia, and if we show them what we regard as a clear case of duplicity, they would explain it in some other way, or treat it as an oddity about which there is no more to say. Even if the individual admitted that he was lying, they might reject the confession and treat the utterance itself as a form of delusion. She contradicts what she earlier said. She must be ill. One could also imagine the opposite example, that is to say, a group of people whose concepts allowed no room for pretense, because any form of pain behavior was itself ridiculed or punished. Shamming, these people might say. What a ridiculous concept. As if one were to distinguish between a murder with one shot and one with 3. For them, complaining is already so bad, so shamming wouldn't be possible to perceive as being worse. Like the previous people, such a people would have no use for the inner, outer picture. For them, pain behavior is not something which needs to be examined to check whether it's genuine or not. Rather, it is something shameful, and that is all there is to it. As these examples show, there is nothing inevitable about our concepts of pain and pretense, about the inner outer picture itself. Although we could try to teach these people our concepts, there is no guarantee we should succeed. Furthermore, if we did succeed, this would not prove that our language game was correct. It would be like teaching people to play chess who previously only played draught. Similarly, we could not say that only now did these people know what pain was. For that would imply that they never felt pain before. It would also previously It would also be wrong to suggest that they had previously overlooked something, made, as it were, a systematic but elementary conceptual blunder. point is that we make a distinction where they do not. And the possibility of making a distinction does not imply that a distinction has to be made. I think that is incredibly pertinent. The language game can play out differently. We ourselves do not make a distinction wherever one would be logically possible. Rather, we make distinctions where these would be important to us. If someone now says that the difference between pain and fine pain must be a matter to them, this simply underlines how much the difference mattered to us. In teaching them our language game, what we are doing is teaching them a new way of looking at and reacting to other people's pain reactions, pain expressions. The clearest way to express our teaching is not in the apparently factual statement, "It is never certain when someone is in pain." But in the prescription, be mistrustful in the face of others' people's expression of pain. what our picture of the inner and outer expresses is not the truth, but a particular way of understanding and relating to others. Compared to people who do not have a concept of pretense, we play a more complex game. And this means that our whole way of life is different. Although, as Wittgenstein notes, this does not necessarily mean it is less beautiful. If our world contains the possibility of deceit, it also contains the possibility of integrity. These points underline Wittgenstein's general claim that inner states stand in need of outer criteria. But they fail to explain why we are so wedded to the idea that the inner is hidden. Why is it that we always want to treat the outer as mere appearance? An obstacle to perception of the inner essence. This idea certainly does not correspond to our practice. Although when doing philosophy, we may be tempted to claim that the inner is necessarily hidden. We are less inclined to say this when someone is writhing on the floor after being hit on the head. Similarly, if a friend opens her soul to us, we do not say, "How could I possibly know what she is feeling?" when all I have to go on is something outer. Even the example of lying can be turned against the claim that the inner is hidden. For when someone tries to lie and is unsuccessful, this provides a striking illustration of the openness of the inner. If I lie to him and he guesses from my face, it's a quote from Wittgenstein here, and tells me so, do I then still feel that what is within me is in no way accessible to him, that it is hidden? Do I not feel much more that he can see right through me? Although others can sometimes be a closed book to us, this is not always the case. The inner is therefore not hidden, because it is the inner. Rather, if it is hidden, this is only in particular cases. Why then do these cause cases assume such importance when we reflect on the nature of the inner? Why are we so inclined to claim that we can never really know what others are thinking and feeling? So you see here now how aspect comes into the play, and by aspect we get completely different language games. They are sort of based on the same substance, if you like, it's not the proper word, or outsideness, but they are still there. I will continue after the break. Thank you. So these two different cases or examples by Wittgenstein show that the rule following coming from aspect C can be widely different, actually completely divergent, and that is what is meant by life world, Lebenswelt. Do remember once more, it's not something of a fun thing to hear. It is what will happen if the life world is too different. If a lion were to speak, we would not be able to understand what it said. We would not have that accessibility, although we were living in the same substance, so to speak, almost. A closer look would reveal that the lion interacts quite differently. So it will have different things, different objects in their reality. And all those objects will relate to each other in quite a different way. Not participating at all in the same way. Makes a different language, different aspects, different unities of terms. I think that is one of the most important pointers to understand how language games are constructed, so to speak, and to get away from the idea that our thinking reflects something outer that is static and shared by lions, for instance, or the people who do not know how to lie. Say thank you very much and have a very pleasant morning, day, evening, night, or wherever you are. Bye bye for now, and thank you.